Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program. It is exactly 10 after 8 o'clock. News and views right here on Salam Media. My name is Julie Ali, and I thank you for joining me this morning. Inshallah, you will stay with me right up until 10 o'clock. Lots coming your way, but we're going to dive into our first interview of the morning, and that is with you, Trevor Ngwane. You are the director at UJ Center for Sociological Research and Practice, and this is an important conversation to be had, very especially since the elections are just around the corner. And I think this is going to be addressing all of those issues. Good morning. Welcome to the program. Nice to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, it's a very cold Wednesday morning yet again, and I do hope this is going to be the last cold week of the season. Can't wait for the warmer weather to come around. I'm absolutely frozen. Right, that's on the weather front, but our guest is in studio, and let's look at the issue that we're having to deal with this morning. There's a sense that politicians are capitalizing on current affairs to garner votes ahead of the 2024 elections. And let's try and unpack that. And I know the first thing that pops into my mind is Panyaza Lesufi. Having started this huge employment drive, I think they have thus far secured jobs for unemployed youth. I think probably about 14,000, if not more. Look, they entry level jobs, but it's jobs in any event. So, once again, a very good morning to you. Welcome. And how do you see the picture actually playing out?
So,
Trevor,
is that the
over
question to
to
me?
you.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought we were posing it to the listeners. Yeah.
No,
Yes.
it's to you.
Look. Yeah. Yeah. Look. Premier Panyaza Sufi is a desperate man. Mbalula called him a busy man. Remember, he's going to be a 2-year half-term premier because he only became premier, and only halfway. And there's a real danger of the ANC losing Gauteng province. So he's fighting hard to actually, hang on to power. Now, it's a very good question about the jobs he's creating. So he's pulling all stops, to persuade and convince the youth and the general population that people must vote for the ANC. But the question, given our experience with, the extended public works program, is whether these many youth jobs are sustainable. Will those youth still be working after Panyaza continues being premier, after he's been voted back to power, or will they disappear and only reappear, in the next election in 2028? So this is a real question, and we don't want our youth to be taken for a ride.
I think the other issue as well that needs to be addressed is we know the youth of today are very restless. We've heard about the slasher generation. They are obviously the educated youth, the guys with the degrees and diplomas, and they don't stay in jobs for a long time because they know that they've got a bargaining power. They can job hop and get better opportunities and better pay elsewhere. And despite this entry level of jobs that has been made available by the Premier Lesufi, there's going to be a time very soon, in a couple of months' time, or maybe even post elections, when the youth are going to become restless and bored with the type of work they're doing, whether they are, whether they have degrees or not, whether they're educated or not, they are going to become very restless and they're going to want to move on to better, bigger, and more glamorous positions. Everybody wants better for themselves after a space of time. That's going to also play into the picture, is it not?
Yes. This thing of youth moving from one job to another, It's not because they are flaky. It's because of the new condition of the job market where you get precarious employment. So, especially with the new technology, you don't have a long permanent job. You have what is called a gig. So you are employed, over the weekend or over a month or over a year. So it's not so much that the youth want to keep on moving. They want to move up, be more secure, but the jobs they are getting don't pay them enough. And the jobs themselves are casualized, they are precarious. So I
Mhm.
think problem. That is why I'm concerned about Panyaza Lisufi promising the youth heaven and earth, when in fact, those youth, as you suggest, won't be able to sustain themselves in those jobs. So we don't want false hopes. We don't want fictions. We want reality. We don't want smokes and mirrors, once off miracles, wonders. So I think that not only for Panyaza, but for all political parties, for all societal leaders, we need something, sustainable, long lasting, honest, and good for the people.
But on the part of Panyaza Lesufi, that was a really great tactical move because he's now employed about 14 to 20,000 young people, and those votes are very definitely secured as far as the ANC is concerned. But let's move on then, and let's look at all the other shenanigans being played out by different political party leaders. For example, the 10th anniversary of the EFF was a huge bash this past weekend. And I think, as far as Julius Malema is concerned, the highlight of the evening for him and his followers was the song "Kill the Boer." And we know that it has really ruffled feathers in most circles. How do you see that? Um, Probably garnering more votes for Julius Malema, or possibly creating more problems for him and his EFF party.
Yeah, to be honest and fair to Malema, he has always been singing this song. It's just that the political context is highly charged. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And the response of parties like the Democratic Alliance, I see now. You told me even Elon Musk, the
Billionaire.
multi-billionaire, accusing Malema of genocide. Where was Elon Musk all these years when Malema was singing this song? He was busy, enjoying his billions. So basically, in South Africa, what is happening is that we have a situation of old money, of old vested interest, wanting to hang on to their wealth and their power. And the challenge, of course, to this old money, what is now called white monopoly capital, people like Elon Musk would fall under that, even though he's internationally based mostly. They are being challenged by the forces of national liberation, which actually were victorious when they defeated apartheid. So, unfortunately, these forces, the African National Congress, all of them together, they have not been able to dislodge white monopoly capital. Indeed, they are not even fighting to dislodge white monopoly capital. They are trying to find a place for themselves within that system of capitalism, yeah, of wealth for the few and poverty for the many. So basically, the ANC, EFF, they now start to emphasize blackness, radical nationalism, because they want, themselves as leaders, and of course, as you suggested, certain class elements among the blacks to actually get a piece of the cake. My concern is that, yes, you might get some black billionaires, Ramaphosa, Mutsipe. Indeed, Malema himself is probably a rich and a multimillionaire. But what about the millions and millions of ordinary working class poor South Africans, poor people, not only in South Africa, but in the world? So I think this is the dynamic. And then there's, of course, smokes and mirrors, there's spectacles, there's media stunts, and then suddenly, when they sing "Kill the Poor, Kill that is being used to score political points. But I'm just saying, my concern is that we'll all be fascinated by all this hullabaloo. For the old granny, in Fortsburg, old granny in Kukuletu, it's still hardship, suffering. What am I going to eat? What am I going to do when load shedding comes? So I think we should focus on the plight of ordinary people.
So, Trevor, we have another dilemma that we're sitting with here in South Africa as Black people. We keep accusing white monopoly capitalism and we keep pointing fingers in that direction. I think we need to look at our reality in South Africa, and that is we're sitting with a huge issue around Black monopoly capitalism, which you've just touched on a minute or two ago. It's our own people that is letting us down. It is our own people that's letting down the granny in Guguletu and the granny in Fordsburg. How do we address this very serious issue? On the one hand, the crooked politicians offer jobs to the youth to garner their votes. On the other hand, they're actually taking food out of the mouths of the poorest of the poor.
Exactly, exactly. Because in South Africa, we see continuities of apartheid oppression and exploitation into the new democratic South Africa. Now, these continuities of oppression and exploitation remind us that apartheid, colonialism, even slavery, chattel slavery, was a form of capitalism. These were all political forms to ensure that the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, to make certain people like Elon Musk to be rich. But you are correct. In South Africa, instead of changing the system so that everyone can have a better life, to cliche it, but only the aspirant black bourgeoisie. There is a culture of self-enrichment. Indeed, immediately after 1994, the buzzword was the gravy train, because it was clear that ANC leaders, political leaders wanted to get rich quickly. Remember, there was a guy called Smarts of the ANC who said, we did not struggle to be poor. What I'm trying to say is that, yes, the problem is that some people want to continue monopolizing the wealth, monopolizing resources, and those we thought were going to change that actually are joining, the evil crowd and are doing the same thing. So I'm just hoping that people like Julius Malema, the EFF, they don't fall into the same trap where they speak radical today. They talk left, but as soon as they get power, they'll do the same thing and start enriching themselves and forget the masses, forget the poor, forget the granny in Fortsburg and in Guguletu.
Unfortunately, I don't share those sentiments of yours. I don't have much faith in the EFF. We've heard way too many stories about the people that Julius Malema hobnobs with. And it's not only the EFF. We do know it's the ANC and other parties as well that are on the gravy train. Having said that, we spoke about Elon Musk suggesting that he's accused Malema of pushing for genocide. We also know that the DA are wanting to file charges, if they haven't done it yet, against the EFF regarding the "Kill the Boer" song. Do you think that they'll, get any leeway out of that? Do you think anything will come out of that charges that they're going to file against him? There was a very similar charge brought against Julius Malema in the past, but that ruling was overturned. Do you think that is why Julius Malema persists in singing the song and pushing ahead with it, because he feels that he won't be charged yet again?
Even if he loses the case, but what are the sanctions against him? Remember Jacob Zuma, he was a thief, but he thought if I become president, I can quash all my charges. So
Right.
that's the thinking. Yeah, that's the thinking. It's
Okay.
almost like a calculation. And in any case, the FF is fighting for its life because remember, it has got 10% of the vote and it looks like it's not increasing that share of the vote. So in politics, if you're not increasing your share of the vote, you are going down. So he's desperate now. So he'll try every trick in the book. It's the era of what one friend of mine called polytricks. So, stunts,
Politics.
yeah,
Absolute
politics,
politics.
yeah.
I agree
Need
with you. Okay, let's look post 2024 elections. I spoke to thus far all of the analysts that I've spoken with up to now have suggested that the ANC are going to have to consider coalition, a coalition partnership with the smaller parties because they definitely not going to come out in the majority post 2024. Just one analyst, and I'm not going to name him on the show this morning, just one analyst has suggested that the ANC is going to walk away. Once again, they're going to win the elections, possibly hands down. If not hands down, they're definitely going to get above 51%. Your thoughts?
I think the ANC is going down, because after 30 years, I don't think that you can pull off the same trick. Indeed, even if Panyas Alisufi, is a busy premier doing this and that, but people know that when election time comes, every councillor, every mayor, every member of parliament, every premier becomes busy. So, the masses are not stupid. And I think that with load shedding, with high crime rates, with the economic crisis, people can hardly afford to eat, transport. I think the people are ready to kick the ANC out and try something new. They are so desperate. The only question is, what is the alternative? Everyone wants to know who else can we vote for? Unfortunately, at the moment, there is no real political party which seems to match or is worth trust of the masses. Hence, this scramble for coalitions, the DA, Moonshot, EFF, FNP filling it up. But I think the ANC is going down. I can't see it survive. I mean, I think its number has come up. Even if it managed to hang on, it will lose whole provinces like Gauteng, etc.
My final question then to you. You are the director at UJ Center for Sociological Research and Practice. What does the future look like for South Africa post the elections? And I know that a lot is riding on who comes into power, what sort of coalitions we're going to be looking at. Um, we just need to look at our current situation, which you've touched on as well: high unemployment, the issue around Eskom and ongoing load shedding, crooked and corrupt politicians, uh, poor and failing infrastructure, etc., etc., etc. But what, as a sociologist, what do you see South Africa looking like if we have the right people in power post 2024? And how long will it take for us to get our act together?
Yes. Yeah, we need the right people in power, but we must also have the right political order, economic order, political system, economic structure to allow the people to thrive. So, apartheid was a form of capitalism. Now, capitalism continues. So, all the filth, all the oppressions, exploitations continue. So, what you really need is a fundamental change. And that change is not going to come from the top, it's not going to come from a messiah. Indeed, not even from one political party. It requires ordinary people, working class people, trade unions, I don't know, even churches for that, youth groups, women's groups. The masses have to regain their confidence. They must realize their power to change things. We defeated apartheid because the millions and millions stood up and said, enough is enough. So at the moment, it's all these spectacles, watching leaders strutting the political stage, appearing on TV, but ordinary people are watching a spectacle. They have to rise up, take action, So that's the only way in which our future can be secured. And it is possible. Ordinary people, that granny in Fortsburg, that granny in Kukuletu, must just regain their power. Not look up, but look at your neighbor and say, what can we do to improve our lives, to create a better world?
Trevor Ngwane, Director at UJ Center for Sociological Research and Practice. Thank you indeed for your thoughts on the show this morning. Go well and God bless.
Thank you very much.
It is exactly 8:31 news and views right here on Salam Media. And in a minute or two, we're going to be re-looking at the story, the Riverlee story, which is actually quite shocking. And my heart goes out to the people in that community. We are going to talk with Mark Cater. He is with the Riverlee Mining Forum. So please do stay with us and become a part of the conversation. Would love to hear your comments on the show.